Good afternoon, class. So our topic for today is Alzheimer's disease and other dementing diseases. Okay. So the most popular condition is your Alzheimer's disease. So this is the most common and important degenerative disease of the brain. Okay. So it is pointed out that some degree of shrinkage in size and weight of the brain, and usually with accompanying atrophy, is inevitable accompaniment of advanced age. Okay, but these slight changes alone are relatively slight clinical significance. No? So there are two outstanding characteristics, okay, of a degenerative or a neurodegenerative disease. Okay, first is that they affect a specific part or a function system of a nervous system. No? Then second, they begin insidiously after a long period of normal nervous function and pursue a gradually progressive course. Okay, so to determine a patient with a dementia, it is important for us to know the different mental status examination. No, so this includes the level of alertness. Okay, attention. No, under attention is your behavior. So how do you test for your attention? You can ask the patient to spell a word backwards. Okay, it is also important to assess the language of the patient, no, as to the handedness, spontaneous speech, comprehension, word finding, difficulty, ability, repeating ability, writing, and spelling. Okay. Next is the memory. We need also to test the immediate recall. So your immediate recall, you can ask the patient what was his last meal. Okay. The orientation to place, time, and person. For the remote memory, this is assessed by asking a patient about historical or a verifiable personal event. Okay. So for the higher cognitive function, no, under your higher cognitive function is the fund of general knowledge. Okay, so this is a general basic knowledge and awareness to social events. No, you can ask who were the last 5 presidents. No, what is the capital of the Philippines? Okay, proverb interpretation. So it assesses the sequence of thoughts, okay, logical connection, and ability to provide specific information, okay, that are elements of a thought formation. No, so for example, you ask the patient to interpret a certain proverbs, no, like while cats are away, the mice will play. Okay. Then calculation, the arithmetic skills of a patient. You ask the patient to subtract, no, 7, no, from 100, no, backwards. Okay. And constructional ability, no. So this is a nonverbal ability that includes perception, planning, and motor coordination. So this condition is common in 50 years old and older, no? More common in female than male because female has longer lifespan. And the incidence is 3 per 100,000, no? In less than 60%. However, the incidence increases, no, in patients more than 60 years old at 125 per 100,000. So as you can see, no, the prevalence of the disease increases with increasing age, no, from 300 per 100,000, okay, in patient age 60 to 69 years old, compared it in population more than 80 years old, the prevalence rate is around 10,800. Okay, so it is expected in 2015 that there are 30 million people, no, will suffer from Alzheimer's disease, no, because we are living in an aging population. So these are the different epidemiologic risk factor, the birth order, okay, the mother's age at birth. If you have a family history of Down syndrome, you have a history of depression, okay, head injury, okay, low level educational attainment because you have a poor cognitive reserve, okay. So the association between the diabetes or hyperglycemia and dementia, okay. So these have emerged from other epidemiologic studies. Okay, so a higher than an average glucose level over the preceding 5 years usually confirmed with a slight increase of developing dementia, but not necessarily Alzheimer's disease. So for the familial occurrence of Alzheimer's disease, okay, so it has been established that less than 1% of such cases, there is a dominant inheritance pattern with a high degree of penetrance and appears, okay, and usually the appearance of the disease at a younger age. So the onset of mental changes is usually insidious, that neither the family nor the patient can date the time of its beginning. Okay, most patients will come to attention months or years after the cognitive decline. Okay, so the gradual development of forgetfulness, okay, is the major symptoms. So usually it is associated with small day-to-day happenings that are not remembered. Okay, seldom used names becomes particularly elusive. Okay, little used words from an earlier period of life also tends to be lost. Okay, so because in this condition, usually the remote memory is preserved and the recent ones is lost. Okay, because that is explained by your Ribot's law of memory. No, so this is the diagram of the Ribot's law of memory. Okay, so it is important to know that your medial temporal hippocampal system, okay, is needed for maintaining connection, okay, between various neocortical region that makes up your memory trace. Okay, for example, okay, there is a weak memory trace. You encounter a new information. Okay, however, during repeated activation of this stimuli will lead to consolidation. Okay, so once the memory or the information is consolidated, the memory trace becomes, okay, mediated through the neocortex, and you do not need the medial temporal hippocampal system for reactivation of this learned information. Okay, so in Alzheimer's disease, the first pathologic finding is the atrophy of your medial temporal lobe, or the hippocampal system. That is why a patient with Alzheimer's disease tends to have an impaired recent memory. So they are not good in forming new memories. So another clinical feature is amnesia. Okay, the early stage of Alzheimer's disease have usually dominated by disproportionate failure of episodic memory with integrity of other cognitive abilities. So this may be a sole difficulty for many years. Okay, so memory may become impaired, but as the executive function, for example, the individual may continue to make acceptable decisions if the work uses long-established habits, pattern, and practices. So your patient might also suffer from dysnomia, so forgetting of words. So especially proper names, this may bring the patient to a neurologist. Later, the difficulty involves common nouns and progress to the point where fluency of speech is seriously impaired. Okay, so patients may have forget words, especially proper names. Sentences are broken by pauses. Okay, so again, next is clinical manifestation is visuospatial disorientation. Okay, so this aspect of cognition becomes defective late in the course of the illness when the patient forgets how to use common objects and tools while retaining the necessary motor power and coordination for this activity. So for example of this, so turning in the wrong direction, tendency to get lost on way home, inability to interpret a roadmap. Okay, so next is your executive function. So remember that if the executive function is involved, so this is the most disabling aspect of the disease, okay, when it appears early on. Okay, so it is not specific to Alzheimer's disease because there are so many conditions that might affect your frontal lobe. Example of this is that your patient having difficulty in the front coordinating and planning tasks and following complex conversation. Okay, so paranoia and personality changes, no, your psychiatric signs and symptoms. Patient may become jealous, no, or suspicious of they usually become suspicious, no, that you're getting their possession. Patient may have hallucination, either auditory and visual, but more commonly visual hallucination, no. So this inhibited behavior, like sexual indiscretion, so moods and behavior problem, patient may become indifferent, okay, indifferent, egocentric, increase or decrease appetite. Seizure is very rare, no, around 5%. So these are the expected neurologic examination. So the corticospinal tract, no, so the motor function, corticosensory or the sensory function, visual acuity, ocular movement, and visual fields remains intact. Okay, so no cerebellar or no sensory or cerebellar ataxia. Parkinsonian syndrome features in advanced stage. No, patients may manifest with akinesia, rigidity, tremor, difficulty in locomotion, and unsteadiness. Sometimes primitive reflexes and frontal release sign may appear during the late course of the disease. Well, for research purposes and to establish a certain inclusive and exclusive criteria in the diagnosis of your Alzheimer's disease, so a working group called your National Institute of Neurological and Communicative Disorder and Stroke, okay, in collaboration with your Alzheimer's disease and related diseases association, proposed a criteria to diagnose a patient with an Alzheimer. Okay, first in the criteria, that dementia is defined by a clinical examination, no, by different mental examination. So one of the examination is your mini mental exam, your blessed dementia scale, or any similar to your mental status examination. Okay, so the age of the patient should be more than 40 years old. Okay, and third, the deficit in 2 or more areas of cognition, no, and progressive worsening of memory and other cognitive function, no, such as language, perception, motor skills, executive function. Okay, and fourth criteria is absence of disturbed consciousness. So the patient must be awake, no. If the patient is lethargic, no, we might not be dealing with an Alzheimer's disease, no. So exclusion of other brain diseases. Okay, so you need to exclude other form of neurologic condition, no, before you consider this one as an Alzheimer's disease. So using this criteria, if the patient fit all the criteria, the correct diagnosis is achieved in more than 85%. Okay, so most cases are identifiable without resorting to restrictive lists, such as especially if the patient is observed serially over a period of months or years. Okay, so this is a classic picture of a patient with Alzheimer's disease. Okay, they have visual spatial disorientation. If you ask the patient to draw a clock, no, they are not hindi nila kaya, no, they cannot perfect the drawing of a clock. Okay, if you ask the patient to copy a similar object, okay, so look at the patient copy because of the impairment of executive function. Okay, and visual spatial disorientation. So he cannot button his clothes properly. Okay, so there is personality changes. Okay, and memory impairment. Okay, so for the gross pathology, okay, usually the brain is diffusely atrophied with weight reduction of more than 20%. And the cerebral convolution are narrow, no? So yun yung convolution, okay? Usually the atrophic process involves your frontal, your temporal, and your parietal lobes. But cases vary considerably. So the extreme atrophy of the hippocampus, okay? This is the most prominent findings visible in your MRI, okay? So this is a patient with anormal, okay, cognition, no? So this is a patient with a minimal cognitive impairment, no? Yung nasa gitna. Okay. So you can see here, this is the coronal cuts of your MRI. There's a slight atrophy of your hippocampal area. So this is your hippocampus, no? Located in your temporal lobe. Okay, this area. So in patients with Alzheimer's disease, there's an obvious atrophy of your hippocampal area. No, you can see here that the convolution are very narrowed. No, the gyri, okay, the foci are widened as compared to a normal individual. Okay, so this is one of the diagnostic and in the proper clinical circumstances. Okay. So microscopically, there's a widespread loss of nerve cells in the disease, okay, which is most pronounced in the layer 2 of your entorhinal cortex. Okay. In addition to marked neuronal loss in the hippocampal area adjacent to your medial temporal cortex, okay, so namely your parahippocampal gyri and your subiculum. Okay. So it is also important to note that there's also depletion of your monoaminergic located in your anterior thalamus, amygdala, and your septal nuclei. Okay. So in the cerebral cortex, there is a cell loss predominantly affecting the large pyramidal neuron. Okay. There's also astrocytic hypertrophy. Okay. You can note of hypertrophy of your astrocytes more than proliferation. This is evidenced as a compensatory or a reparative process, most prominent in the layer 3, okay, and 5 of the cerebral cortex. So we have 3 distinct microscopic changes in a patient with Alzheimer's disease. First is your neurofibrillary tangles, okay? So it's located within the neuronal cytoplasm, okay? This is described as thick fiber-like strands of silver staining material composed of hyperphosphorylated tau, okay? So the presence within the nerve cells of nerve cell cytoplasm of thick fiber-like strands, okay, forming loops, coils, and tangle of masses. Okay, this one. So the neurofibrillary tangle. Okay. Next is the neuritic plaque. No, so your neuritic plaque is a spherical deposit of amorphous material scattered throughout the cerebral cortex. Okay, usually seen with periodic acid shift. So the core of the aggregates is the protein amyloid surrounded by the degenerating nerve, okay, that stains with silver. Okay. Next is your granulovascular degeneration. Okay, this is most evident in your pyramidal layer, okay, in the hippocampal area. So this is the last change and least important in the diagnosis, but there is uncertainty regarding its nature. No, it could be either a reactive process, okay, that reflects a defective in phagocytosis of a degraded protein, or a product of your amyloid. So your amyloid protein, your beta amyloid protein, this is a small portion of a large entity of your amyloid precursor protein. Okay, so the neuroprotectant role is to reduce the calcium released by your glutamate and promote remyelination when the neurons are injured. Okay, so remember that elevation of your amyloid beta protein, okay, 42, will lead to aggregation of your amyloid that will result to neurotoxicity. Okay, so this is a simple diagram, no, of the proteolysis of your amyloid precursor protein. So when this APP is cleaved sequentially by your beta secretase and then by your and other secretase enzyme, so the resulting amyloid protein could either be amyloid beta 40 and amyloid beta 42. Okay, so the amyloid beta 42 favors the formation of the aggregated fibrillary amyloid protein, okay, so that this will result to fibrillogenesis. Okay, So the fibrillariform of your amyloid is neurotoxic, okay, and favor the cause of cell damage in Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so remember that formation of your amyloid beta 42 is promoted by mutation, either by the APP gene itself or by your presenilin. Okay, so in Down syndrome, okay, there's an excess production of your APP. No, if there's an excess production of your APP, okay, there will be a lot of your amyloid beta 42 that cause triplication of this protein, okay, in the long arm of your chromosome 21 located in your APP gene. Okay, so the location of your APP gene, okay, so remember that your ApoE4 allele, okay, is associated with an adequate clearance, okay, of your amyloid beta 42, okay. So that will result also to fibrillogenesis, no, resulting to amyloid toxicity or deposition of your amyloid. So yeah, no. So your amyloid protein, so encoding at the chromosome 21. So in Down syndrome, there's an excess production of your APP, giving rise to a lot of amyloid beta 42. Okay, that is caused by the triplication of the long arm of your 21. So remember, your presenilin 1 and 2, okay, are associated with early onset dementia with Alzheimer's disease. Okay. So how about apolipoprotein E? No? So this is a regulator of lipid metabolism that has an affinity for amyloid beta in Alzheimer's plaques. So your ApoE is associated with late onset dementia and modifies susceptibility to Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so the presence of your ApoE4, okay, is associated with tripling the risk of sporadic Alzheimer's disease by about 5 years. Okay, so the same allele this is the same allele also that contributes to elevated LDL in the serum. Okay, so in contrast, your ApoE2 allele is underrepresented among in patients with Alzheimer's disease and most likely protective, no, protective allele in the genesis of amyloid toxicity, your ApoE2. So for neurotransmitter abnormalities, there is a 50% reduction, no, in your activity in such region in your caudate, no, reduced reduction of your choline acyltransferase, okay, reduced concentration of your amino acid neurotransmitter, no, and also your different neuropeptides such as your substance P, somatostatin, and cholecystokinin. So in a patient with advanced Alzheimer's disease, the lateral and the third ventricle are enlarged to about twice of a normal brain. So this is the normal brain. Okay, you can see here, if you compare the lateral ventricle here, no, in a patient with Alzheimer's, this is enlarged, no, as well as your third ventricle. No, this is the third ventricle. This area, no, compared here. So what you need to look at is the coronal MRI, no, of the medial temporal lobe. So this may reveal a disproportionate atrophy of the hippocampal area corresponding enlargement of the temporal horns of the lateral ventricle. So before you make a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, no, you need to think about any reversible cause of memory or reversible cause of cognitive impairment. Okay, so these are the following. Okay, so these are the potentially treatable form, like your normal pressure hydrocephalus. Okay, so it has a triad of bilateral lower extremity weakness, urinary incontinence, and cognitive impairment. No, age dementia complex. No, You can also consider paraneoplastic limbic encephalitis. However, this is associated with seizure that is not common in patients with Alzheimer's disease. Nutritional deficiency, no, like thiamine, Wernicke-Korsakoff, Marke-Faba Bignami disease, pellagra, or vitamin B12 deficiency. You may want also to consider a chronic drug intoxication if the patient is chronic alcoholic, no, or patient is taking sedatives, or a patient with multiple cerebral infarction. No? In patients with multiple cerebral infarction, with memory or cognitive impairment, no? That is a different entity. No? That's what you call your vascular dementia. Okay. So other differential diagnosis, others endocrine and metabolic disorder, no? Frontal and temporal lobe tumors, because this simulates dementia. Okay, because it subserves the different function for memory and executive function. Cerebral vasculitis, sarcoidosis, no, Whipple's disease, multiple sclerosis, and pseudodementia of depression. Yung pseudodementia of depression is a syndrome seen in older individuals in which they exhibit symptoms consistent with dementia, but actually they are only depressed. No? Sometimes this results from the adverse effect of medications taken. So these are the treatments for Alzheimer's disease. We have acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. No? So this promotes to have an increased acetylcholine, no, in your receptor in the form of the donepezil and ribastine. No? So NMDA antagonist, okay, can give also memantine. Okay, so symptomatic drugs like your neuroleptics. So if your patient is having a psychotic manifestation, no, antidepressant, okay, sleep medication, you may give a low dose benzodiazepine. Okay. So these are the diagnostic studies, no, for in order for you to help to diagnose a patient with Alzheimer's disease. So remember your Alzheimer's disease, no, you can confirm it, no, or other neurodegenerative disorder, no, or other dementing diseases. The only way to diagnose this pathologically is through brain biopsy. But you don't want to undergo your patient with that kind of procedure. No? So first is neuroimaging. Okay, so your CT or MRI. So this will exclude other cause of dementia. Okay, and of course you need to take note of the coronal cuts of your temporal lobe. Okay, EEG will show diffuse slowing. Okay, so for the CSF, no, this is not routinely done. But if you want to consider other causes, but in Alzheimer's disease, the CSF findings or the analysis is normal. Okay, studies of cerebral blood flow using SPECT or PET will show diminished activity of your parietal and your medial temporal lobes, okay, or your association lobes. Yeah, neuropsychological tests, no, like your mini mental status exam, no, like your MOCA-P, no, you can use that. Okay, so using the constellation of the clinical data, no, cerebral imaging, and the context of the age of the patient and the time or course or the temporal profile of the disease. Okay, so these factors will help you to diagnose Alzheimer's disease correctly. So how about other types of dementia? No, so we have lobar dementia, no, or your FTD, okay, or your frontotemporal dementia. Okay, so this is a selective degeneration of your frontal and your temporal lobe. Okay, so the pathologic change is there's a presence of Pick's body. Other term for this one is Pick's disease. Okay, and a presence of neurofibrillary tangle. Okay, so the variants are the following. We have behavioral variant. So the patient is under consideration with behavioral changes, okay, related to the abnormalities that includes your frontal and your temporal lobe. For example, apathy, disinhibition, perseveration, poor judgment, okay, loss of empathy, and these are affect. Okay. Next is your primary progressive aphasia, another variant of your FTD. Okay. So there's a focal disturbances specifically pointing to the language, no? Particularly aphasia. It occurs early and prominently in certain patients with lobar degeneration, no? Indicating that you have a degeneration of your left frontal and left temporal lobe, which is the language center where your Broca's and your Wernicke are located. Okay. Next is your posterior cortical atrophy. Okay, so this is a regional variant of lobar degeneration. Okay, that has been slightly less frequent than the other two types. Okay, so the fundamental feature of this one is that there's a loss of ability to interpret and use visual information because you have atrophy of your occipital lobe. So the result is progressive and ultimately severe visuospatial difficulty with a relative preservation of memory. So this is a gross image of a patient with FTD or a lobar dementia. No? So you can see here that the frontal lobe is atrophied, no? And also your temporal lobe. The occipital and your parietal lobe is slightly atrophied only. Okay. Next is your Lewy body dementia. Okay. So this is the most frequent pathologic diagnosis of global dementia, no? Next to your Alzheimer's disease. Okay. So this is characterized by the diffuse cortical neurons with Lewy body inclusion. So remember, this condition has no neurofibrillary tangle and amyloid. Okay, because Lewy body in the cortical region are surrounded by a distinct halo. Okay, so as they are in the substantia nigra in a patient with Parkinson's disease. Okay, so actually the pathologic changes in Lewy body dementia is similar to your Parkinson's with the presence of your alpha-synuclein, which is the main component of your Lewy body dementia. Okay, so signs and symptoms. Okay, Parkinsonian features, dementia, and episodic delirium. That is why it is important. You know, it is important for the history of the deterioration of cognition. If there is Parkinsonian symptoms, you know, along the course of the cognitive decline. Okay, so the diagnostic criteria have been offered by a working group requiring 2 to 3 of the following. No, if you have 2 to 3 of the following, no, Parkinsonian syndrome, fluctuation in behavior, and recurrent hallucination. Okay, so if you have 2 out of 3 in that criteria, most likely you are dealing with a Lewy body dementia. So let's now proceed with a dementing disease with other neurological manifestation. No? One of this is Huntington's disease. Okay, so it has a triad of dominant inheritance. Okay, chorioatetosis and dementia. So the overall frequency of this condition is around 4 to 5 million. Okay, 4 to 5 per 1 million, and 30 to 70 per million, okay, is common among whites and Northern European ancestry. Okay, so the usual age of onset is around fourth to fifth decade of life. Okay, so the marker linked to this condition is your Huntington gene. Okay, so this is and localized to the short arm of your chromosome 4. Okay, subsequently, the investigator and other researcher identified the mutation as an excessively long repeat of your trinucleotide tag repeats. No, usually before the disease manifests, okay, you must have more than 40 repeats. Okay, to determine not only the presence of the disease but also the age of onset. So the higher the repeats, okay, the more earlier the onset, okay, and the more severe the disease. Okay. So these are the clinical manifestations. Okay, we have cognitive deterioration. So the mental disorder assumes a very subtle form, no, long before more obvious deterioration of your cognitive function becomes evident. Okay, patient may begin to find fault with everything. Okay, to they usually complain constantly. Okay, so they become irritable. Okay. Next is the movement abnormality characterized by slowness of the finger and hands. Okay, increase in frequency of blinking. No, it is well, the decreased frequency in blinking is seen in your Parkinson, which is opposite to your Huntington, which has an increase in frequency of blinking. Okay, there's a voluntary protrusion of tongue. Okay, so the slowness of movement of fingers and hands. Okay, and a reduced rate of finger tapping and difficulty in performing a sequential of hand movement are early signs of Huntington disease. Okay, so in advanced stage, the patient is seldom still for more than few seconds, no, with associated choreic movements, okay, with postural lapses. So for the pathology and pathogenesis, there's a gross atrophy, okay, of your bilateral caudate nucleus and the putamen. This is a characteristic abnormality of a patient with Huntington disease. There's a moderate gyral atrophy of your frontal and your temporal region, striatal degeneration beginning at the medial part of the caudate. No? So here, you can see here that you have an enlargement of your lateral ventricle. No? Wala na siyang caudate. Normally, the caudate is here. No? The caudate is located here, the pointer. No? Once it atrophied, it pulls down the lateral ventricle, making it more appears enlarged. Okay. So in addition, the ventricles are diffused and enlarged, no? Like this one. So the anterior parts of the putamen and caudate are more affected than the posterior part. So for CAG repeats, okay, the higher the CAG, the higher the number of the repeats, the earlier the onset, no? And there's an aggregation of your Huntington's in the neuron, specifically in your striatum and cortex. Well, treatment for this one, no, you can give dopamine antagonist in the form of your haloperidol, okay, in a daily dose of 2 to 10 milligrams, which is effectively suppressing the movement disorder, okay? Because the danger of superimposing the tardive dyskinesia on a chronic disorder, the chorea should be treated only if it's functionally disabling, okay? You can also give drugs that depletes or block dopamine receptor like your reserpine, no, your clozapine, okay, and your tetrabenazine, okay. And of course, if this is a genetic inheritance, you can also give counseling, no. Well, for the prognosis, usually the death ensues about after 15 to 20 years after the onset of the manifestation. Okay, so I think that is my final slide. Okay, you can ask your proctor after this on your live lecture. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention.